Don't know if you can see that, but it's about -15 at the moment, hence the amazing hat. The week before Adele released her album, 30, I published a video in which I made general predictions about the entire album and specific predictions about the first track, Strangers by Nature. My goal was to highlight why music theory is music and to see if I could predict how Strangers by Nature would go before I heard it. The 3 questions on everybody's lips that I'll answer in this video. Firstly, what is the world record for the largest donut box ever made? That would be the Kuwait Food Company's copy of a Krispy Kreme donut box in 2009, the final box weighing 297 pounds and 10 ounces. The second question, were my predictions about Strangers by Nature correct? Nope, not even close. But that's totally fine. The point of my YouTube channel is to teach you how to be a better musician. And the third question is how to play Strangers by Nature. So in this video, I'm going to explain why I was wrong and at the same time teach you how to play Strangers by Nature from Adele's album 30. The main reason I was so wrong was that I, as well as just about everyone else on the planet, didn't expect Adele's album 30 to be so introspective and so not pop. The album is really dark and the style is anything but pop. It has elements of R&B, blues, Motown, jazz. What other style buzzwords can I throw in? Heavy metal perhaps? But okay, there was no heavy metal on the album. But Adele's choice of style and focus of the album means my predictions about the keys of the songs were off, because the songs like My Little Love, which I thought would be a celebration of a child, instead turned out to be an apology to a child for the separation from his father. In all fairness to Adele, rarely does such a huge artist bear all and let us so deeply and vividly into their psyche. And I think all credit to Adele for creating something so different. The longer an artist's career is, the more difficult it becomes for them to break the mold. And for artists with a long break from releasing albums, they can't really win with whatever they release. Because either they release something similar to what they've released in the past, and everyone says that they haven't said anything new, nor have they added anything to the rich tapestry of music, or the artist does something new, and it's so different that people hate on it because generally people don't like change. Have a think and write the name of some bands that fit those 2 scenarios in the comments section. But I do think Adele made a bold move with this album, and it still had a couple of radio-friendly chart toppers baked in to cover that corner of the market, while saying what she really wanted to say on this album. On to Strangers by Nature specifically. I'm going to teach you how to play it whilst reflecting on my previous predictions, and at the same time teach you as much as I can about music in general. Let's start, as always, with the structure. This was what I predicted for the structure of Strangers by Nature. I'm going to say intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, outro, which is A, B, C, B, A. And this is what the structure of the song actually is. A, B, A. Hardly what I predicted. But now I can say some things you might never have heard before and probably can't find anywhere else. If you look at a chord sheet for this song, I wouldn't be surprised if you see that they've marked down the structure of Strangers by Nature, A, B, A, as verse 1, verse 2, chorus, and outro. They have labelled the verses and the outro correctly as the A section, and debatably incorrectly labelled the B section as the chorus. Because, in my opinion, professional opinion, I believe a section of music needs to repeat in order to be called a chorus. And this B section only happens once. And this leads to 2 really good questions. Firstly, does a chorus need to repeat in order to be called a chorus? You can look at the dictionary definition, which will agree with me and say that it does, but I want to at least entertain the argument that as this section contains the lyrics that form the title of the song, Strangers by Nature, and it is the main climax of the song, and, in all fairness, the lyric Strangers by Nature does repeat, is that enough to qualify as a chorus? I'll leave that for you to decide. But the second question is, if it isn't a chorus, but is clearly different to the verses, then what is it? The short answer is it's a B section, nothing more and nothing less. And the good-ish news is that this means the song is made from only 2 parts. Leaving the debate of what a chorus is behind us, it would be far safer to simply stick with our labels, A section and B section. This means the song structure from a musical standpoint is A, B, A, nothing more and nothing less. And here's the important part I haven't heard anyone else say about this song. The structure A, B, A actually has an identity. It is called 32-bar form, and is actually a common feature in older pop music from the first half of the 20th century. If you know that, then this song and the styles Adele is quoting make a lot more sense than if you don't know that. What seems like an unusual song structure is in fact not unusual at all. Road. It's just not common for a structure for a song written in the last 80 or 90 years. But now that you know that the structure is A-A-B-A, the song has just become a whole lot easier to learn to play. On a side note, Make You Feel My Love, which Adele recorded in 2009, is also in a variation of this 32-bar form. So have a listen to that track and notice the A-A-B-A structure of the song. Make You Feel My Love was written by Bob Dylan, just in case you didn't know, in 1997. It's not an Adele song, it's a cover. So we need to learn two parts to play Strangers by Nature, the A part and the B part. I recommend pausing this video and listening to Strangers by Nature and then counting how many bars there are in the A sections and the B sections. Beautiful day. Did you pause it? Hopefully you did that and you counted that there is a 1-bar intro. It's really just one held chord before Adele starts singing. Then there are 10 bars in the first A section, 8 bars in the second A section, and 11 bars in the B section, before the song finishes with a repeat of the first 10-bar A section. So after the opening held chord, that is 10 bars and 8 bars for the first 2 A sections, 11 bars for the B section, and 10 bars for the last A section. If you listen to the B section again, notice it can be broken down into an 8-bar phrase followed by a 3-bar phrase, because there is a clear change for the last 3 bars of the B section. Or, if you're happier, just think of it as one unit lasting 8 bars. Either way, the fact that it is an odd number is why you might feel you trip over or are surprised by the start of the outro A section. So much music works in an even number of bars that any time we have an odd number of bars in a section, it will feel like something peculiar happened. Apart from the odd number of bars in the B section, we also need to think about where the extra 2 bars come from or disappear to in order to make the difference of the 10-bar and 8-bar A sections. Before we look at the chords and how these bars are actually filled, let's look at the key choice, because most often the chords and melodies come from the key and the scale of the key of a song. I predicted the use of a minor tonality, that is to say, I guess the song will be made from a minor scale. Specific key for Strangers by Nature, I'm going to say B minor, E minor is too metal, D minor too sad, C sharp minor could be a good second guess, but I'll go with B minor. But apparently, Strangers by Nature is in the key of F major. So I was completely wrong about my key choice of B minor in my earlier video about my predictions before the album was released. But you don't have to listen to this song multiple times to hear the darkness and clear sadness within it. Which perfectly reinforces what I keep saying about tonality. Major isn't necessarily happy and minor isn't necessarily sad. Teaching children or adult beginners that minor is sad and major is happy is okay, but you need to come back to this idea regularly and add these important layers of detail. It depends on how these tonalities are used and on other factors as to how a song sounds. I suggest you reflect on songs you know in minor and major keys and see if you can come up with a better imagery or feeling than happy and sad for major and minor that will help you identify these tonalities when listening to music. Because identifying if a song is in a major or minor key by ear is a really useful skill to have, and as you can see, major is not necessarily happy and minor is not necessarily sad. Now we have the key of F major for Strangers by Nature, we can look at the chords within the key of F major, which gives us F major, G minor, A minor, B flat major, C major, D minor, and E diminished. Please watch my video on what I consider to be the core 1 hour of music theory that everyone needs to know if you don't understand how I generated those chords from the F major scale. But from this, we can start to look at what chords fill the sections of Strangers by Nature. Here's the 10-bar A section, here's the 8-bar A section, and here's the 11-bar B section. I said in my predictions video that the chord progression might be a 1-6-3-5, whereas the A section of Strangers by Nature is actually a 1-3-4, 6 major, 2-5-3, 6 major, 2-4 minor. Let's say it's complicated. Why is it more complex than what I predicted? The answer is in the style. This song is heavily influenced by jazz. And the ideas I drew up in my predictions video were based off the preconception that the song would be in a pop style and not in a jazz style. Jazz is more complex than pop music. That doesn't mean better or worse, just means more complex. And in my opinion, the fact that jazz is more complex than pop is one of the reasons jazz isn't as popular. Jazz challenges the listener in a way that pop does not. I'm not saying one style is better than the other. I'm just saying that jazz is musically more complicated than pop. Which is why the standard joke when someone plays a wrong note is, "Oh, that sounds like jazz." The reason for this joke and the common conception that jazz sounds disjointed or like a load of wrong notes is because jazz changes key all the time. A pop song will start in a certain key and pretty much only use notes that come from the 7 notes of its chosen key. That's why if you play any note that is not one of the 7 notes the song is made from, it sounds wrong. It clashes with the correct notes. Jazz still uses sets of 7 notes called keys, but it changes from one set of 7 to a different set of 7, sometimes as often as every bar. This is all important because most of Adele's album 30 is heavily influenced by jazz. If you've already listened to the entire album, you know which tracks aren't so heavily based on jazz and are more based on pop, because those are the songs that are super easy to listen to. All this means to understand Strangers by Nature, you need to know a few things about jazz and how jazz works. The main thing is that jazz doesn't stay within a key, which allows it to use more of the 12 notes that exist and break away from the 7 notes of a single scale. So let's look at the chord progression again in detail, and let's go slow. The first chord of Strangers by Nature is F major, chord 1 of the key. So I was correct a week before the song was released when I said that the song would most likely start on chord 1 of the key. Especially the prediction that the first chord of the song is chord 1 of the key. That is true of 90% of songs. And as I said in my predictions video, that is true of the overwhelming majority of songs. So not really any surprises there. After the F major chord, we have an A minor 7 chord, which really just means play the notes A, C, E and G together pretty much any way you like. The 7th is an extra note. You could just play A minor here and it would sound fine. A minor is chord 3 of the key, so again, nothing strange there. Then we get to a B flat major chord, which is chord 4 of the key, and so far, this could just be a pop song. But then we get the chord of D major. Now that chord isn't in the key of the piece. The song is in the key of F major, and our D major chord contains an F sharp note, which clearly isn't in the key of F major. Adele should have used the chord of D minor, D F A, and not D major, D F sharp A, if she wanted to stay in the key that this song is written in, the key of F major. And this is a great example of the influence jazz has on this song. The song is using more of the 7 notes than its key is made from, because we've heard the F in the first chord, the F major chord, and also in the chord of B flat major. So where does the F sharp note come from? To explain all of jazz here would theoretically be possible, but it's better if you watch my videos dedicated to music theory. Here I want to remain at least vaguely concise and just give you a glimpse into the world of jazz, hopefully to inspire you to look further. Here in this video, I can give you 2 quick tips that will allow you to understand jazz a little bit better, and also Adele's album 30. Firstly, look where you are going to next. For example, the chord after this D chord is G minor, and if we look at the G harmonic minor scale, we can find the notes G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat, F sharp, and G. This scale has an F sharp, and so we can build the chord of D major from this. Why and how we move to G minor from F major is a little too involved here. For those who want to know, I view G minor as the relative minor of the subdominant of F. That is to say, we only change one note, an E into an E flat, which is as small a change as is possible, and then we use the harmonic minor variation. If that sounded like a nerd in glasses and a fantastic hat making no sense, then just ignore the donuts out of that for now. The point is, when you find a chord that contains a note that you aren't expecting, look to the following chord and see if a scale related to that holds the answer. The other quick tip or tips I want you to take away from this video is chromaticism and voice leading. The word chromatic comes from the Greek chroma, meaning color, and in music, chromatic simply means using the notes directly next to each other. For example, the B flat major chord has the note F inside it, and the F sharp note we're now talking about is half a step away from the F. The F to the F sharp is chromatic. Voice leading is how the notes within a chord move to the next chord. We can say that each note within a chord is a voice, and that each note creates a musical line as it moves from one chord to the next. For example, I already said that the F in the B flat major chord becomes the F sharp in the D chord, and that the F sharp then moves to become the note G in the following chord. So focusing on one musical line that we can find within the chord progression, we can say that from the chord of B flat to D to G minor, there is a musical line or voice moving from F to F sharp to G, which is again chromatic. These kinds of movements are really common in jazz, and if you can identify them, then it helps make sense of what might otherwise seem to be odd chord choices. We've covered the first 4 chords of the song, F, A minor, B flat and D, and explained that the D chord is the odd one out, and it doesn't belong to the key of F major, and in fact comes from a variation of the G minor scale. Next we play G minor, C7, A minor, all of which can be made from the F major scale, so nothing too scary there. Again, if you don't know C7, then just play C. That's totally fine because the 7 is an extra note. The core unit of the chord is still the same, C, E, G. We then get a D chord again, which we've already discussed, and not so surprisingly, it leads yet again to a G minor chord, because the D chord comes from G minor. Then we get a B flat minor chord, which is made from the notes B flat, D flat and F. So again, we've got a chord that isn't in our main key of F major, the D flat note being the different note. Firstly, notice that you hear this. I can't stress this enough that music theory is music. The note isn't within the key, and for that reason we hear it, we feel it. It creates drama, it challenges our ears and our senses. Once you know what the move is, you can use it yourself to create the same feeling in your own songs. Or you can use the memory of the feeling this chord movement creates to work out songs that have the same move within it. And that way you don't need a chord sheet in order to play a song. You can be a true musician and work music out by ear. Link the feeling to the musical fact. The next question is, where does the B flat minor chord with its D flat note come from? Well, one option is it is a borrowed chord from F minor. Watch my video on borrowed chords for that. Or simply come back to what I already told you about chromaticism. The chord before it is G minor and the chord after it is C. The G minor chord contains the note D, which chromatically becomes the D flat in the B flat minor chord, which chromatically becomes a C in the C chord. Again, one hidden musical line found within the chords is moving by half steps from one note to the next within this chord progression. To check to see if you've understood the ideas of chromaticism and voice leading, I'd like to challenge you to see if you can spot the same thing happening hidden within the C7, C minor, D chord progression in the A section. Look at the notes found within these chords and see if the note that isn't in the F major scale can be explained this way. Following on from that, we yet again notice that the D chord at the end of that progression moves to G minor, which is what the D chord has done throughout the entire A section, and in fact does throughout the entire song. If you're playing a D major chord in this song, then the next chord is always G minor, because the D chord is built from the G minor scale. That's an example of music theory yet again helping you to memorize music. Looking at the chorus, the B section, maybe not the chorus, it's probably a bridge to be honest, but looking at this bridge, it has a couple chords that aren't from the F major scale. Most importantly, at this stage, just notice them. Notice that they sound different and that you hear different colors in the sound because they use notes that aren't from the key. Again, music theory is music, people. To explain them for now, just look for chromaticism. How do the odd notes found within these chords relate to the notes in the chords both before and after? The last two things I'll say in this video. Firstly, when looking at a chord sheet, you need to know how many times to play each chord before moving to the next. That's why I've added bar lines for you, so you know which chords you play for 2 beats, which chords you play for 4 beats, and so on. To do that yourself, listen to a song you like while looking at a chord sheet, and then count along and mark the bar lines to fit your counting. It takes practice to do this well, but it's definitely worth learning to do this yourself, as so many songs are in this type of chord sheet format. And this format doesn't have bars, and so it's difficult to know how long to play each chord for. Finally, the extra 2 bars in the long A section at the start and at the end of the piece exist simply because there's an extra line of lyrics which is sung over the chords G minor, C7, C minor and D. Half a bar of each chord. That is, play each chord for 2 beats. So removing these extra 2 bars creates the second 8-bar A section, whereas with these 2 extra bars, the first and last A sections are 10 bars in length. Have a great day. Leave some comments if you have questions. I'll, as always, do my best to answer them. I'm Pete Cook, soundtuition.com. Pop song and not a jazz song. road. Someone's kindly waited. Pop across the road there. T, you're good down there, buddy. Wave to the kind person. Grab the pram. We'll head this way. Put it on.